welcome to the Daft podcast. Today I'm joined, as I often am, by Mr. Chris Bratt.
Hello.
But also, as a special guest, is Mr. Simon Miller.
Oh man, special guest as well. And I brought you a special voice too.
You're not Simon Miller. Who is this man?
My special Simon Miller Daft Souls voice, which I'll only use on this podcast. It's patented to this. I won't use it anywhere else. So it's like a treat for everybody.
It is a bit of a trick as well. Like, in fact, you have to be quite familiar with what you sound like to be able to work out just from the cadence that it is actually. And the laugh. The laugh is still unmistakable.
The laugh is still there. It's just not as empowering maybe as it was before. But it's fine. You know, it's winter. Some people get sore throats. It's all good.
Indeed.
We plough on forward.
For those of you who don't understand what's going on, we all used to work together at Video Gamer and did the Video Gamer
did.
Yeah, and then you
podcast.
two left.
And then we left. But, you know.
Yeah, you're still there.
Oh, crikey.
Lol. Anyway, I'll just briefly, because I've not really been playing much lately, so I'll tell you what I've been doing. I got myself a PS Vita in the post the other day, didn't I?
Oh, very nice.
It is nice.
You're on the PS Vita bandwagon now.
Yeah,
officially.
well, it's kind of like it's a nice bit of gear.
Yeah.
It's quite thin.
Yeah.
It's all right. I mean, I've got a lot of the PS Plus games on it, so I had a bit of a go on Luftrausers, which
I know that. It's good. I think I played that with you,
You
actually.
did. I thought I know that game, and it made me. It's because Christopher Bratt was kind enough to introduce it to me, so I'm with you. I
We've
know
got
what you're
differing
talking
opinions
about.
on Vlambeer, haven't we, really?
Yeah, we do.
you're not a fan of Van Beer by any chance?
Thought it was okay. I thought I was okay. I've never thought about it again since it, but doesn't mean I won't go back to it one day. Who knows?
I can't tell actually. I played Luftrausers for about 10-15 minutes. And I had fun with it, but by that point, actually, I was sort of ready for something else. But I don't know. I couldn't tell if that
I
was
think they're designed to be played in those kind of
like little burst games, like a mobile game. Really.
It's not my favourite out there. I think Nuclear Throne is the one that I always go back to.
I'm still holding off on that because of the way he's like, you know.
It is early access.
It's early access, and he's made a big deal of the transition between early access, which I like that idea. He's like, I'm not going to discount it at any point because it's not out yet.
Yeah.
Or do discounts when it's out.
You know, I saw that it's like I don't know how much this really means, but it's one of the highest rated games by users on Steam. I think just because of like they've built this community around it as it's been out. I think they're doing.
I think it's pretty much a masterclass in like how to build up a
early
community
access as well,
around early access. But because of that, I kind of thought, well, no, actually, rather than playing it early, I thought, I'll wait till it's out.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And then
finished experience.
Get to experience, because I mean, it must be really good when it's out, because they've
Exactly, it has to be now. I get no sympathy for anybody.
But Love Horizon seemed okay. And yeah, I mean, actually, one of the games I got bundled with it, which I've heard so much about, and I haven't really played yet, is Tearaway.
Right.
Okay. No, I'm the same. I'm in the same boat. I hear nothing but praise, but I have no opinion on it whatsoever.
I mean, I played it for about 5 minutes, and all I can say on it is that, and I was saying this just before we started recording the podcast to Brad, that it's the sort of game where I started playing it, and I was like, this is too good to play on a train. Like, I could just tell, like, this isn't a train game. Like, or if it is, it's a long journey game.
Yeah,
like,
where you're going to settle in and
this
enjoy
isn't a little commute thing.
Like you're going to the US or something, maybe. Like you need, like I'm like that with certain handheld games. They almost feel too good. You're going to waste them if someone's chatting to you on the bus or the bus is too loud or whatever. Like
that's it.
You don't want that when you're playing
just know
Tearaway.
it's a sign of quality when you go, this is too good
for public transport.
Too good for public transport.
Yeah, exactly. It deserves my full attention.
It's like the Nintendo Gold Seal of modern games. Although I think that may have been influenced by the fact that obviously Tearaway does that whole thing with the camera.
That's true, yeah.
And it's like,
you don't want to do that on public transport.
It's you! And it was like, just suddenly filling the screen was this like dimly lit cold face wearing a hood, and, like with bright harsh lights behind me of the ceiling of the train, just being like, yeah, that is me.
Thanks a lot.
I don't want to be reminded.
It was one of these things where like all the people I'd seen on Twitter when it came out were all like posting screenshots of them like with big grinning faces being like, look at me in the game, and I'm just there like, my life is shit.
I kind of like that. Did you go with it? Because I think that would be a really interesting thing to have in the background. Just like you're in this colourful, lovely, whimsical world.
But you're reminded by...
You glance up towards the sun, you see reality. Like, well, there's something to that.
I think
very poetic.
I know, because I think that and this is one of the reasons I think it's just not good for commuting, is it's like, I don't know, I get what you mean. It might be funny, but at the same time, like what's nice about playing video games is they can take your mind to these wonderful, colourful, exciting,
cheer you up a little bit. If
and
you
it's
need
like, you know, when I'm playing it and when I'm not on the screen, I feel quite happy. I feel quite like, but then every time I'm reminded of of where I am right now, what I look like, and how tired I look. I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
People say they don't want video games to be too realistic sometimes because the real world is rubbish. That's sort of like, this is the ultimate edition of that. Like, let's
the
put
getaway
a fucking
game.
mirror on the screen.
Yeah.
Imagine like, I don't know, like playing Bastion or something, and every like 5 minutes it's like, you do look like shit, by the way. Just so we're clear. You look terrible.
I don't want you ever to make games, Chris. That would be horrible and depressing and mean.
Yeah. That's
That's the plan.
It's like popping up in the loading screens in between games while I'm taking a break. Just come up saying you're fat, you're lonely, no one will ever love you. Like, just a reminder.
Yeah. Thanks for playing.
Now back to the
You played
phone.
this for 50 hours this week. No. You officially don't have a social life. Congratulations, you loser. I don't know. I kind of. It's weird having a game where I sort of feel like I've got to put on my best clothes and do my hair.
It shows you care, though, man. Hey, it shows you're going to give it attention and you'll get something back as well. That's how it works.
Yeah, it's true.
The more you put in, the more you get out.
It does look like fun though, actually, and I'm looking forward to. It's one of those games, I think, because of the art style, because of the whole paper thing, and
Yeah, it is lovely. It does look lovely. I mean,
it's the sort of thing I might, I can probably get away with playing when I'm sitting next to my girlfriend and being like, "Look at this."
Yeah.
She won't be interested, but she won't dislike it as much as
the other stuff.
as other stuff.
Yeah.
You just reminded me of like a very brief period in my life where I was interested in the football managing games. Football manager.
Really?
Even. Yeah.
I'm surprised.
I like it's actually a really good strategy game. But I remember because you play as yourself as the manager. I remember taking a photo of myself for the profile picture and like dressing up in a big coat that I thought maybe looked like a manager. Oh Jesus!
How old were you? 2 weeks ago.
Too old. Too old for that.
25.
Yeah.
I guess the difference is that I used to do the same stuff, and that I used to kind of know when I was doing it, I'm a bit too old for this. But then you kind of get older and you carry on doing it, but you just start doing it without any sense of shame.
Yeah, just accept it. This is what I'm like.
Rather than being like,
plow on.
this is embarrassing, but like, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to look
Can't
just
wait for that to
like.
come out.
But yeah, so that's pretty much all I've been playing this week, apart from Shovel Knight, but I might talk about that in a little bit. What have you been playing, Simon?
Well, I've been all over Dragon Age. Now, before this podcast, Matt, you seem to be desperate to play Dragon Age, so I don't want to spoil anything for you or your listeners.
We'll follow on just for the because basically we did a podcast. It might have been the last one or one before where Brett talked about it, and it was annoying because he was just before the point in the game where it kind of gets a bit Dragon Agey.
Yes.
So he just sort of went, it's all right, and then immediately went, oh, it's actually better.
Within
than
like 2 hours of like gameplay after leaving that podcast,
Yeah.
there is one real Dragon Age moment in it.
So hopefully listeners are as fascinated as I am to know what you guys both think of it, having played more than that.
I like it, but my problem with it is it, as I was saying to Chris before we started, it's not a Dragon Age game if you look at it as an overall thing. And my big problem now with the whole Dragon Age franchise has become, what the hell is Dragon Age?
They're three very different games,
They're
aren't
three
they?
completely different games, and I think the reason that upsets me so much is because I'm a big Mass Effect fan, and the Mass Effect series is what I wanted the Dragon Age series to be, but with fantasy. That was my dream. That was my dream, damn it. And it's not that at all. I mean, Dragon Age Origins is separate to Dragon Age 2, which is now separate from Inquisition. They tie in, with story threads and obviously by tying it back to your choices.
The fan service stuff in that game is one of my favourite things about it. I think they actually... We talked about the weird way that Dragon Age Keep works, which is the system used to create your world state before you start.
Which is far trickier than it needs to be.
Well,
we don't need to get into that.
But so I feel like sometimes they didn't really know what to do with Dragon Age Origins stuff. But with Dragon Age 2, I feel like the callbacks were really good.
I've heard that.
I actually ended up caring about Hawk in Inquisition, which I didn't see coming because Hawk being the lead character in 2.
He's an asshole.
Not necessarily, it wasn't the character that everyone wanted.
The thing is, I keep hearing from people. Chris Thurston said that he, a lot of the callbacks, a lot of the stuff is Dragon Age 2 related. It's really good.
Yeah.
Some of the cameos are great, and they're treated with the gravitas you want them to as well. I mean, they're not they never take up too much time.
I never played Dragon Age 2, so I'm now in this position, right, where I didn't have time to run out and buy Dragon Age Inquisition on the day of launch. It's been like bloody 2 weeks now, and I still haven't got it. So it's getting to that point where it's like, is it worth me just getting Dragon Age 2?
If you can blitz, it's quite
That's the
long.
problem is you can't blitz a game like that.
No, it's massive.
I think maybe not just kind
potentially
of
yes,
through it
or maybe
without focusing on the combat too much. Maybe just whack the difficulty way down and just kind of soak up the story. That is a tough one, really, because Dragon Age 2 is the one the kind of controversial one, right?
Yeah, I think you may be better off reading Wikipedia entry or something than actually play through the game. But that is not, and then deciding which of the, because you can go to the keep and you can decide, well, he read well, so I'll be his friend.
I had to do that anyway, and I played the game.
The keep stuff is terrible. But I mean, I don't know. That's a very good question, because the callbacks to 2 are better than Origins, and the callbacks to the best things about the games anyway. If they hadn't have nailed those, I would be devastated with Inquisition. Just because, I mean, what they've done is Inquisition, much like 2 feels like a reset. It feels like, I think that's why there's no 3 on it. I really do think they've gone, okay, Origins was great, but it didn't sell as much as we want. I don't mean this in a cynical way. I mean, genuinely, they're like, okay, we need to appeal to more people because we want the Dragon Age brand to be bigger. So they tried 2, and 2 was obviously very hack/combat, and you're Hawk and you're a badass, and the cover's a man with blood on his sword. And in Inquisition, they've gone, oh no, that it's changed again. So let's start afresh here. We're going open world. We're going to take in elements from Assassin's Creed, and there's some Dark Souls to it as well, which is fine. I don't mind them doing that. And I think, like I say, if you take it on its own merits, it's a great game and it's a great RPG. It
seems like they made more of a conscious effort to try and tap into that Skyrim market as well.
Yeah.
Massively.
Look at the trailer, definitely. Actually, look at the trailers across Dragon Age's lifespan, and you see you can see the change in focus as it happens.
Yeah.
Like Dragon Age, the trailer for Dragon Age 2 is like a really flashy thing where like the male Hawk character is about to have a fight with one of the Qunari, which is actually kind of, it's not even the main part of the game.
It looks
really
cool.
And it looks very, very cool, and everyone was excited about it, including people that didn't play Origins.
Yeah, but
I think that was...
But again, Dragon Age 2 is a good game by itself. It's not a fantastic game. It has its problems, but it doesn't feel like Origins 2. And it doesn't have to feel like Origins 2, but Inquisition doesn't feel like Dragon Age 2. Again, it feels like a restart where they're saying, okay, new consoles or whatever, new audience that we want to find. Let's introduce these new tropes. And I think that's why you don't get to the Dragon Aging until you're about 15 hours in, because they want to make sure they've introduced to both old and new players, this is where we're pushing Dragon Age now, but now in the second half of the game we'll wrap up the stuff we need to wrap up. And I think Dragon Age 4, for lack of a better term, that we'll be done with all this stuff now. There may be a few sort of cameos for fun, but I really do think we'll take the Inquisition stuff and stuff from 2 and Origins is gone. That's done.
I really don't know where they'll go with that, just because of how much happens in that game.
Yeah.
But so it is worth pointing out for you actually, Matt, for people that haven't played Inquisition yet, I think you the thing that I did wrong without realising at the time was it took me 15 hours to get to that cool moment. It didn't need to. It's because I was the first.
You were dawdling, Brad.
The first area.
You were dawdling.
You're wasting time.
Well,
see me.
I was told that that I was doing really important stuff. These side quests are constantly adding power and influence to the Inquisition, and the first area that opens up, the Hinterlands, is by far... I'm not sure if it's the biggest area, but it's definitely...
It fills in.
It's definitely the one that's got the most stuff jam-packed into it in terms of
Is that
side
by chance
quests.
like a big icy land or...
No, it's actually quite... It's the pretty one, really, isn't it? It's the green one with trees.
It's the one where they're like, look at our vistas, man. Check out our vistas. It is well nice too. It is really nice.
But I think I spent so long in that area, I think I almost cleared it before I really, really properly started going for the story stuff, partly because I was worried that maybe I'd do the story stuff and that area would be closed off, which isn't the case at all. If you blitz through
That's good to know,
the story stuff, that will all be open. And the thing that happens at that point, the thing I keep referring to is what's going on back at base changes significantly, and the Inquisition starts to feel like it's got a place in the world. It becomes almost like a political force in its own right.
It's very convoluted at the start, though.
Yeah.
It's very like, why is there an Inquisition? Why not?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
But I think by that stage, once it opens up, you kind of understand it, and it means that you've got lots of story stuff to progress through, and when you've done like a big story mission quest, whatever you want to call it, you can then go and cleanse your palate and do the side stuff and just kind of mess around and not really worry about horrible decisions for a little bit. You can just go and close some demon rifts.
Well, I guess it's like, it's like if you've got a big tasty pie, like it's not it's not you don't like pastry, it's just you haven't bought a pie just to eat the pastry.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so until you've had a nice bit of meat,
I ate all
what
the pastry.
Fuck is this?
Actually,
It's
really,
just
that's
pastry.
a really good analogy.
I ate all the
Actually,
pastry
really like
before
that.
I got
That's
into the
really
meat. That was my problem, I think.
I think most things can be made into analogies about pies.
good. Yeah, the pie analogy never fails.
Go back for the past 10 years, it's quite consistent.
But with that said, I still do think, I got through it in 7 hours? And that was because you told me to speed up, and that was me going right. I'm gonna plow through.
You do need to do a certain amount of side quests to.
You've got to build up your power
and level up as well.
Yeah. I mean,
I had the same thing with. I still haven't bloody done it actually with Shadows of Mordor. I still haven't got to the bit in the story where you can do all the really cool things.
Everyone says that about that game actually, don't
because
they? They say
it's fucking amazing.
Yeah,
you have to do about 6, 7, 8 hours.
I'm not a fan of it.
I imagine they're talking about get to the part where you can start possessing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But the problem is because it is actually a really good, entertaining, like open world game with sort of stuff that happens, and it isn't just a case of like, oh, I'm near this, I can go and do this mini mission. It's like sometimes stuff just happens and you don't really expect it to. Like you just accidentally get into a fight and then turn around a corner and then suddenly like you've got 3 generals and their armies come after you and you're like, uh-oh.
All right.
Quite often you're just like, I've got to go. Right? Which I kind of like that, and not just being like, I mean, I always felt like, because it is clearly inspired by Assassin's Creed, but with Assassin's Creed it's that thing of like, when you've got like loads and loads of people after you, it isn't like, oh God, I'm going to die. You sort of think, it's going to take me like half an hour to kill all these dudes. Like, it's just a case of like, stab that one. It's gone forever. Whereas in this, it's like, if you do get overwhelmed, it's just like, you are going to die.
I kind of like it. And Dragon Age is kind of like that as well. Because I found out from Brat, I've been playing the game for about 2.5 hours. And I genuinely got stuck. And it's not a big thing. Obviously, one of the things you've got to do is close rifts. Just Oblivion gates. But it's fine. It's a fine side quest. I'm not offended by it. But it's like something you just stumble across, and I could not do it. I was on that for about an hour, continuing dying, putting the difficulty down, and then I chatted to Brat and he goes, oh yeah, it's got like, different areas of the hinterlands are like massively leveled up, so you don't need to go there. So how am I
I knew
supposed to
exactly
know
the
that?
one you were talking about, because there's this like high level rift that it just in the middle of all this low level bullshit. Like it's kind of one of the quests that kind of lead you straight past it.
It's really early on.
Go and get this prized ram and bring it back to the farm. That's an early quest, right? That sounds like an early quest. Also, not something that the Inquisitors should be fucking doing. Let's say that straight off. And then whilst you're doing that,
hierarchy.
you walk past
Too good for you, is it?
really high level rifts that like you've been kind of told at this point that that you're the only one that can close them. You think, well, I better do this, otherwise
that's kind of always.
I didn't like it.
I feel like that was a mistake, to be honest.
I am not the greatest games player in the world, but that thing kicked my ass. If I can't do it on the beginner difficulty level setting, something has gone horrendously wrong. I'm not that bad.
Yeah, I kind of figure as well, like, there is that element of, it's nice to have that. I do like that kind of scale thing of being like, you can't do this yet, it's too dangerous. Yeah. But you've got to, like, visually signal it.
Well, it's nothing. It's just walk into it and you're like, oh, man.
I remember in Demon's Souls, actually, like, they did a really good job of that, in the fact that Dark Souls did a lot of stuff where it just dropped stuff on you, or, like, you had to fight this stuff. But with Demon's Souls, there were quite a few bits where there was just like, there's a dragon over there. It's like, do you want to go over there?
Yeah.
Because there's a dragon over there.
Yeah.
And chances are you don't want to go over there because there's a dragon. And it would just be like, there would be obvious things being like, that's going to be too hard for you. You do know that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, just dropping them in the way. I mean, even a lot of people really slagged off Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, they did. That's true. I forgot about that.
Really hated
the
facts. I think a lot of people really hate.
Oh, the death clause actually. I remember.
Yeah,
but Fallout 3 did that a bit as well, so I wasn't too.
But everybody, I think everyone got annoyed because I guess the difference was in Fallout 3, it's like you come out and then you can literally go whatever direction you want. It's very much an open world RPG.
Vegas is more.
Whereas Vegas used the open world setting and the open world system to create like a traditional RPG in a way of being like. It got open towards the end, but for the first 10 hours, it wanted to lead you through a sequence of stuff, much like the original Fallout games did. Though actually, people forget that. Like in the first Fallout games, you went through towns in a fairly static order to begin with, but people really hated that. But I thought it was alright because it did clearly be like. Everybody you talked to in the first town was like, don't go north. It's fucking death claws, mate. And then everyone was like, oh, it's bollocks. You can't go north because there's loads of death claws. It's like, well, yeah.
I told you that. Yeah, they did tell you. Yeah, exactly.
The difference with Inquisition, I've got no problem with that. I like even having reasons to come back to earlier areas because you can now do it. And you know what? There's actually a really good example in the hinterlands of you can clear the whole area and then there's a dragon that called Lady, I've forgotten the name actually, but she's looks really impressive. She looks like a dragon. You're not going to mess with her until the end of the game.
Yeah.
It's clear. The problem with the rifts are every rift, by and large, has the same very limited pool of enemies that it spawns. So it looks exactly like the rest of the enemies you've been fighting. You've already, by that stage, closed about
No, and it's also
riffs.
exactly, and it's also like, into spicing these up with quests, like you say, get some meat or build a camp, close the rifts. You're like, okay, this is just bullshit I have to get through. But I was like, fuck you didn't close the rift. Now go make a camp. There's no like hard camp making tasks. They're all really easy, and most of the rifts are relatively simple. But this one is just, I don't get it. I don't understand why it's there.
One of them go and get like the prize winning ox. And it turns out the ox is a real dick.
Exactly. You cannot get it regardless.
Oh, why does he keep running off? Jesus, he's run past the dragon again.
I hate this guy.
That quest is actually one of my favourite examples of how it gets that side quest stuff wrong, because some of the stuff like closing the rifts, it's repetitive, but it feels like it feels important, and you're the only one that can do it. You're literally the only person that has the power to close them
with your special arm.
And then the prized ram or whatever it was. It's pretty much like an escort quest. You need to find it and then bring it back. Except I don't even really think that enemies even bother with the actual ram. They just care about you. And it walks at about maybe a quarter of the pace that you're moving at. So what you do is you just run to the actual...
Stop and fight, and it keeps following you.
Yeah, and you just have to wait around. And
it's bad. It's not good.
Then it just kind of turns you off the side quests in general. At least it did for me. And there were a few different...
Why are we not done with escort?
Well, that's the thing. And the other problem is, like, the best thing about Origins especially, less so with Dragon Age 2, were the side quests were awesome.
Yeah.
And they always managed to find a way to tie it back in. Like, oh, if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have learned that about Joe and all this kind of stuff. All the ones in Inquisition are stuff like fetch quest, do a menial task, be that guy. It's like, I'm the hero of the damn world, apparently, according to your mythos. It tells you that in the first 5 minutes of the game.
You're literally branded with a thing that's like...
but I have to go and like basically do my laundry. Change my car or something. I don't know.
It's tough with this busy work stuff, because it's the same issues I've had with Destiny a lot. And you end up just a lot of the time just doing things again and again and again. That's fucking stupid. It's like you get a call being like, oh yeah, we need 5 of these parts from these. And like, okay, you kill those enemies, get 5 of those parts. It's like, this is the 20th time we've done this. Why don't we just stockpile this shit?
Exactly, when we're out there. Yeah.
We know exactly what these people are going to want. Why don't we just be like, responsible? What do you want? Yeah, I've got loads of it.
Yeah, don't worry, it comes to my garage.
Kill thousands of these things. Yeah, how many do you need?
That's my problem with it, is that it doesn't tie into this. They're saying, oh my gosh, these rifts, we're all going to die, but you are the best. Give me a hug and kiss. But go kill a ram.
That's kind of the thing. It works in a way, once you get over the disappointment of that, it works to Destiny's favour in the fact that the story is fucking bollocks. And it means as soon as you stop caring about that, and all you really care about is your character in the world in terms of like you feeling like you're a powerful presence, your character just becomes somebody who fucks stuff up, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it's not what you want in
No, and it's a shame because the mechanics are good. Like the combat's the best, I'd probably say, out of all 3, because it finds a perfect way to merge the tactical stuff with the smash in your face stuff. So if you are in a simple battle, it's really nice just to get it done and level up and move on.
I went back to Origins just before Inquisition, and the combat isn't as good as I used to think it was.
It's basically like Baldur's Gate style.
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy
got some of the issues that maybe the old-fashioned kind of RPG approach has.
But the tactical stuff in this one is really nice. Like, it's really good. Like, slows it down, gives you time to, work out what you want to do. The amount of options, if you really want to get hardcore with it, you can get right down to the nitty gritty.
I've heard though that apparently, especially if you do want to play it like the first game in terms of like PC RPG style of like giving orders and clicking around and basically doing the overhead thing, it's not as good because you can't pull the camera out back that far.
It's true, actually,
To be honest, I'm not too bothered because it's the sort of game where looking at it, it doesn't seem to me like it's going to be that kind of game for me anyway.
You know what,
there's never that big a battlefield either.
The only times it really became an issue were boss fights, fighting a dragon, and even then, it was usually at the start, and then when something had gone wrong and I needed to quickly remedy it, I needed to pause and make sure people do certain things. Outside of that, and I played through the whole campaign on a hard difficulty. It wasn't I was blitzing through it on easy. I knew you were going to do that. I'm just trying to,
We're all thinking it, Chris.
So yeah, I don't know. The tactical view is nice. It's not. You don't end up using it.
Well,
that much.
I get the impression they've tried to actually expand upon the kind of more action-oriented combat.
You can jump as well, and in combat.
Why is there jumping in it?
I saw your video actually about that. You were like,
"There's no need.
What is the point in this?
Why is he jumping with no need?" No one sat there going, "I tell you what, Dragon Age needs a fucking jump." That never happened, but for some reason it's there and it's pointless. I mean, it's pointless. There's no need for.
Sometimes in the combat, it's all right. I'm more tied to the moves that make you jump. I remember I was playing. I messed around with one of the archery kind of talent builds, and There's a move that has you backflip and fire a volley of arrows. And like the times when you do that and hop over a wall and it almost looks like you're taking cover or you're in a slightly better position.
I've heard actually...
It does feel nice.
I've heard the archery is pretty awesome. I've heard like...
I think the rogues are by far
the most fun characters. Yeah, that's good to know. Have you got any other tips? Because you said like it's kind of like get through the early stuff. Don't spend too long dicking around with the prize-winning oxes.
Yeah, stay away from side quests.
Stay away from
as much as
portal.
you dare.
You'll feel like you need to do all of them because you like
it does
every
make
side
out
quest,
like it makes
every
out
side
like
quest adds power, which is a resource that you use when you go back to the base. But there are so many ways to do it. You'll find stuff that's more fun than the Ox side quest or whatever. So I think just try and get through to that big moment when it starts to feel a bit more like Dragon Age, when the story starts to feel important and you're making decisions, which is a big part of BioWare games. Like if you don't have that, you lose a lot.
Mind you, I'm excited about the vistas. I mean, it's just looking at pretty pictures.
It's pretty within. Here's your intro. Go. And if the first thing you see is a big mountain and you're like, ooh, it's big and
just
pretty.
love it. I mean, I remember like Red Dead just being like that. Just some of the vistas and that, like
that's still the best.
Just remember just being blown away by how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
And
you definitely get that with this. I mean, you're taken out of it a little bit because as soon as the characters start walking, he's got the Dragon Age walk. And it's like, oh yeah, it's Dragon Age. But it's such a minuscule little thing. Like just sort of, especially when you get to... the Gold Coast is Dragon Age 2. Is it Dragon Age 2?
Coast.
Is that what it is? Where you go after the... It's one of the early... Anyway, it's one of the coasts you go to. Oh, man, you start off on like a high hill and you can look down over it. It's raining slightly. You're just like, man, aren't games lovely and wonderful? I don't care about anything else right now. It's a really, really good looking game.
I really can't wait just to get lost in it a bit.
Yeah. It immerses you straight away. You do feel like I'm in a big fantasy land.
I think it's one of those things at the moment I'm trying to catch up with actually doing some work at the moment.
Yeah.
Because I've not been doing a lot of work lately. But I really want to play it, but it's like, well, you should do some work first before. Because otherwise it's like, I'm just going to disappear forever.
It is one of those. I keep saying to people it's a good Christmas game because it's one of those ones that, like, if you've got a little bit of time off and you want to really fall into something.
I know, I'm not going to get Christmas though, which sucks.
Yeah.
But next time.
Next Christmas.
I'll make space for it at some point.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm moaning about it, but it's still a great game. I still put in 20 plus hours to it. And that's a game that I think has problems, so it must be doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah,
so, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, because I kind of felt like even just the joy of getting to new areas and feeling like, I mean, Skyrim was wonderful for that. I actually preferred Skyrim when it was just walking around.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I thought the narrative stuff was a bit. Yeah, it was like
when you were in the wilderness, it was beautiful. Like coming through misty trees to see an aurora and the moon and sudden clarity of a night sky. It was just like stunning.
Yeah,
and then you got attacked by a bear and he killed you. But the actual story stuff was so weak. Like I kind of don't understand. I liked my time in Skyrim, but I don't understand how people love it so much.
No, I was the same. I was chatting to someone about this recently, that Skyrim to me was incredible for exactly the reasons you said, and some of the side quests were really interesting and
that was more the faction stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, but then the actual sort of, you look at it as it was a bit like...
well, the main story just didn't feel like it had much more going for it than the side stories.
No, and you just had to keep climbing a mountain and talk to a dragon. That was literally it. Go up the mountain and talk to the dragon. Okay, I can do that.
Job's a good one.
Yeah, exactly. But I agree with you. I think Skyrim was amazing, but... for all the reasons you would assume a video game, with all the kind of peripheral stuff, that's what made Skyrim great. Whereas the main core stuff is a bit like, it's all right.
And just I've been in these caves, these before, and you just hit a wall with the loot, and and suddenly it's like there's just so much more of the game to do, and yet you've seen everything.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I always thought that may have been me because I put in an insane amount of time to Oblivion. I thought maybe I've just run myself down on this formula.
Sure.
But a lot of people say that about Skyrim in general. Even some people that only kind of toyed around with Oblivion still felt Skyrim didn't really hook them in the same way.
I think the main thing that frustrated me was I just felt that the writing on the quests was just really weak.
Yeah.
There were a handful of quests which were interesting, but like so few of the actual like mini stories it tried to tell. Like none of them tied together. And I honestly think that's because from what I've heard, like Bethesda games are actually quite cheaply made, and I think they're kind of maybe made. Yeah, I've heard rumours about this that they're actually not. They look very expensive, but actually, and it kind of makes sense if you look at how it's made.
Yeah,
you kind of like Skyrim is a game with tons of quests, but how many of those side quests can you remember that then tied into another side quest or had any link to?
Very few.
Oh, very few.
Yeah.
Like, which is weird because they've created a world, and the only thing it does really is it doesn't. It's very rare that it makes you kill off a character that would give you a quest otherwise.
Yeah.
And
it's true.
I think that's my problem with the Ubisoft approach recently. I think it's a similar kind of thing. They fill up these gigantic worlds with a lot of repetitive things that don't feel like they matter that much. And there are a bunch of games that are taking inspiration from that at the moment. Like
Dragon Age.
Inquisition definitely. I was. This is a weird one that I never expected to say. I was playing the new expansion for World of Warcraft, Warlords of Draenor. It's got loads of Ubisoft stuff in it, which I like. Let's not get into talking about WoW and repetitive side quests. I get that that's a bit of a silly argument, but I feel like it is. Game. We are seeing quite a resurgence in really big open world games just because the tech's there now, and I don't just want to see them filled up with repetition.
That's the thing. I mean, my biggest problem with Ubisoft games at the moment is they do feel like they come off. They feel like they're mass produced. I'm playing Far Cry 4, and Far Cry 4 is great. For exactly the same reason, Skyrim is great. It looks amazing. I like walking around. I like stumbling across rhino and trying to, hunt it down. That's fun. But no one can argue to me that it is not just Far Cry 3 with a 4 put on the end set somewhere else. I mean, that's what it is. But you can't get mad about that because that is all Ubisoft intended it to be.
Yeah.
I don't play Assassin's Creed because I hate it. But it sounds the same.
As good as Far Cry 4 looks, I've got no interest in playing it just because my reaction with Far Cry 3 wasn't like a bad one. It's like I played it for about 5 or 6 hours.
Exactly the same.
I went around the boats. I tried all the vehicles and stuff. I found a hang glider. That was quite fun.
Major wallets.
And basically, I went, did all the animal killing stuff.
Yep, I did
all my upgrades.
And
as soon as I hit all of those and I'd got all my upgrades, I was like,
I'm done. Yeah, I hit the wall. Exactly.
I had no interest in the story.
No,
it's
none.
fucking bullshit.
But I didn't come out of it thinking that is a really awful game. I just thought, I was
kind of disappointed because it was like, there's so much more of it. Yeah. I looked at what I'd done on the map, and again, that gave me flashbacks to Skyrim of getting like a third of the way through the map, and then playing it for like 40 hours, looking at the map and being like, I've seen a quarter of this.
Yeah.
It's like, do I want to see the other 3/4?
Or is it just going to be the same?
I'm like, what are you going to show me?
Yeah.
That is going to make me like. Whereas Fallout 3, they did that a lot better. Like, I remember reading all of the computer things and stuff. You'd find I remember reading everything because it was like well written. It fleshed out the world. Not all of the side quests in Fallout 3 were good, but there were unexpected twists. There were dark bits.
You're talking about Origins to me. That is Dragon Age Origins.
There were no twists in Skyrim. I mean, I think it was like...
It's very straight-laced,
Or they were so obvious. They were like, this is the most obvious twist in the world. Yeah, it was actually... the amount of times you got to the end of a cave and it was like, oh, actually... The man who hired you is a bad man. Oh, where is he? Is he actually? All right.
Should I kill him? Yeah, I'll kill him.
The exception there, I think, is the faction stuff in Skyrim.
Yeah,
the fact because they have
so good.
I worry that's becoming a trend for the Elder Scrolls. Like the Dark Brotherhood quest line in Oblivion was one of the best quest lines.
It's wonderful.
And the rest of the game doesn't have necessarily the same problems as Skyrim, but never gets to that kind of height. Like when they focus on a faction, they know that you're going to do these quests in this order. I feel like that they were at their very best. I don't know that that's necessarily happened with Skyrim. Maybe the reason that the main storyline isn't quite as strong as well is because they know that you're not going to do that all in one go either. You're going to do a little bit of it and then go off and...
It's quite possible. I think it's just the problem you have with scale of like... I think, and that's probably, again, why they don't tie together in Skyrim too much, because some people might not... I like to kind of feel like I'm on a journey which takes time. I like to arrive at a town, arrive at a city, get to know it, explore
I do.
it.
You like to assume the role of a person.
Yeah, and because especially because one of the things I really liked about Skyrim was the idea of like often having to become a Thane and stuff. Like if you wanted to buy a house or whatever, like having to earn the approval of the locals before moving on. I like that, but the problem is it was always so thin. But I guess they have to build it with the idea that people might just hop around all over the fucking place. And then if it ties into an earlier quest, it's like, who's that?
I don't know what that means,
It's a huge challenge, isn't it? I mean, I've been playing a bunch of the Telltale games over the last couple of weeks, and I feel like what I would love a Telltale game to be, is something that takes those decisions that you've made and it ends up fleshing out into, like branching out into so many different storylines depending on your decisions. It just doesn't become feasible because, they may put an enormous amount of work into one of those branches that no one ever goes, like 5% of people pick.
That's kind of the thing with I kind of feel for like, obviously, although I get bored of stuff like Skyrim and for being just too thin and too big and a bit damp, like I kind of feel for people. I kind of feel for Bungie with Destiny because people are so annoyed at the fact that there isn't that much more content coming immediately, and it's just like everyone wants new locations. There aren't really many new locations in the pipeline, and it's like, when are we getting another planet? And they're like, I don't know. But it's like, you look at it and it's like, there isn't actually that much in terms of places and things to do, but it's all so like impeccably crafted.
Yeah, well, it's the thing, that's what I want to get. It's like, I'm like a 12-year-old boy. I've asked for Destiny for Christmas. Because it's this game where, if you tell me right now, Simon, out of everything you've heard and reviews you've read and people you chatted to, what do you think about it? I have no clue. Because I think you're quite fond of it, Matt.
I have, the thing is, like, I have to caveat that there are loads of things about it that really annoy me.
Yeah.
But overall, I love it.
Yeah.
And I think it's hugely flawed. And one of the reasons, I know people are getting really fed up with me talking about it, especially in terms of doing videos and stuff. And I was like, oh, when's Matt going to get fucking fed up with Destiny? It's like, the thing is, it fascinates me.
Just because, and I think that's what I'm intrigued about as well.
Yeah, it's like I both love it and hate it at the same time.
Yeah.
And it isn't just as simple as addiction. It's like, there is some really nice stuff in there.
Yeah.
But I feel for them because it's like, guys, you've made the opposite mistake of MMOs. MMOs like get thin and feel a bit lifeless because they make too much. You guys have been such perfectionists. I mean, it's like, you can't really undermine that. In this year we've had like Assassin's Creed Unity was full of hilarious bugs, people's faces falling off,
broken basically, like, to the point the advert should say may not work. Start in the corner to say.
I've heard some people say it's fine, but I've heard lots of people say it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
And so actually, like, as much as people slag them off, Activision have produced two of the most well-produced games I've seen this year. I've played both Destiny and both Call of Duty.
Call of Duty is really good.
They are both
really good.
See, we've talked about this on the past few quite a lot. It is really good. Like, but it's like also not only is it really good, it's like it's incredibly smooth.
Yeah.
And it just works.
It's true, isn't it? That's
nothing
the thing
about it. It's just been polished to an inch of. And
I totally agree.
People slag off Activision, but it's like these guys made some games that work really well.
And Skylanders as well. I mean, I don't like Skylanders. I don't like the concept of it. But hey, millions of people do. So what do I know? But it works, and that's complicated technology as well. If you look, I assume it is anyway. But in Call of Duty, especially, like when I kind of jumped on the bandwagon a little bit too early. And it's just more Call of Duty. But now I keep going back. I keep playing it. The single player I can take or leave. It's not really. It's fun, but it's.
I stand by
it's throwaway.
You know, I mean, obviously, I was like. I remember when I made the video about a video game, it was me and you watching it and deciding. But I do stand by, like, Ghosts are just, you could tell.
Oh, it's awful. I think maybe that's why this one feels so good.
Well,
Ghosts was just bad.
I kind of knew from day one, as soon as they announced it, this one's going to be weak.
Yeah.
It was the way they announced it. They were like, we're not betting on this one. We're going to come back big.
And they did. I mean, because this is the one where... And I thought it was the opposite. I mean, it did, but who knows when you first play these games, how you're going to react to them. It's the one where multiplayer is fun again for me. I haven't played multiplayer properly since Modern Warfare 2. I tried to get into the other ones, it's like, but this one, it's got me. Even if it's just 20 minutes an evening, it calls to me. I've just got to play a little bit of it. And I think it's because it's really polished, it's really smooth, and the basic things, like, you know, the gun-to-gun and all that nonsense, it's done so well that you don't need too much around it. All the exo stuff's cool. Because the shooting's so good, that's all I need. And it's the best Call of Duty in years.
It is. I do worry for them, though, if that's actually... I wonder, with their market, like, how much damage they actually did to themselves just with a Duff one. Like, one Duff game.
It was really Duff as well.
You remember how dominant Pez was for years, and then, you know, all it takes is a couple of Duff ones and something else that's a bit better, and you're fucked.
Yeah. I did feel like Advanced Warfare just kind of... I don't know, this might have just been me, but like it kind of sneaked into the limelight. Like the actual release day, I wasn't that excited about. It seemed to be the week following it, or maybe the 2 weeks following it, where the hype started to build up again. People were like, honestly, listen, Call of Duty's okay again.
Well, I think if I wasn't commissioned to write a thing about it, I probably wouldn't have played it because I sort of like, it's one of those things where, and I think that we won't talk about it anymore because we talked about it so much for the past 3 or 4 podcasts. But it is one of those series where, like, now, unless you're somebody who's, as part of your job, you play and talk about games, it's a game series that people just don't play. And that's because, I mean, doesn't really get anyone excited anymore. You're not like, oh, what's it going to be like?
I feel like Advanced Warfare has done that, though. Like, there has been a level of excitement I haven't seen around Call of Duty for a while, at least within...
I think it's mainly just in the media. I think
maybe
it's like,
so. And also the same with War's Drano. I think, well, that actually has, the numbers have shot back up again. But
the difference is, like, nobody is excited. Well, that's not true. There are people who are massive Call of Duty fans and they're well excited. But most people who just love games generally as a whole thing and dip into a bunch of things... No one a month before a new Call of Duty comes out is like, oh, new Call of Duty.
No, not at all.
But then the difference is, like, most people then don't really care and then don't play it. But if you work in media, then somebody has to play it to find out if it's good. And then it's that moments where every year I find myself, when it's good anyway, going, oh yeah, it's really fucking good. Like, I forget this is actually good.
Yeah, when they get it right. I think it reminds you that as long as you hit all the right stances with this formula, it does still have legs in it. But if you don't, like Ghosts, it can be an absolute atrocity that is just, on nobody's Christmas list whatsoever. But this one is. And the good thing about it is it proves that you don't, because Infinity Ward is not Infinity Ward anymore. We all know that. Don't need to get into it. Sledgehammer Games is first one. They can do it now. They can pick up the ball. I mean, I think they said now we don't get another Sledgehammer Games one for 3 years. But they can be the Infinity Ward of yesterday, where they actually make sure that Call of Duty doesn't die a death.
I'd love to see them do something new though, just because they
got to do it eventually.
It just feels so held back. Like, especially the campaign felt like it was a piece of shit.
It definitely feels like a time to go back to the World Wars. I think
yes,
the kind
I'll
of
go back to World War II. I'm well up for that.
I think they will. I reckon they'll end up doing some sort of Inglourious Bastards thing.
Yeah, so making it have that kind of Call of Duty All American Hero kind of vibe to it maybe, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like they do need to go back to that.
You see, what I love though is and somebody else mentioned this to me and I've forgotten about it, is it's so now Call of Duty, everyone takes the piss out of it being gung-ho America, fuck yeah, and it is. It is.
I know America's been also been the kind of adversary.
Well, no, because for the past 2 or 3 games, the plots have always been seemingly ambiguous and then just gone, nah, they're not. It starts off by being apparently I haven't played it, but apparently the story in Ghosts in the campaign is that America's made this massive weapon of mass destruction, and then some terrorists have got control of it, and then you have to basically stop the people who've got control of it because they're going to use it against you. And the whole thing is the message of that game is, oh yeah, imagine how bad it would be if people got their hands on weapons of mass destruction. At no point does anyone sort of go,
wait a minute,
maybe we shouldn't be making these things. Maybe we shouldn't be
blame, yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't be making these weapons. Do we need them? That's just not a question. If you're what the fuck is wrong with you? Of course we need them. The question here is, what if bad guys get
exactly. We need it to stop the bad guys. What, the bad guys just stole your weapon? Yeah, exactly.
It just, I don't know. It just feels really odd in today's in the climate of the world how it is now. It just feels really weird to have any form of media which is with a straight face coming out and having that as his message.
I think
that's mad. I didn't know that was a story.
Yeah,
I'm not sure they dared make a political message yet, though.
I don't think they would, because I think this is something that just ties into the world at large. Obviously, as we've seen in the past couple of months, all of the stuff with Ferguson and all of the other issues have recently.
And Battlefield Hardline still being developed, I know, right?
Well, no, I mean, it's just the fact that I think it is. Yeah, I mean, that's got a point. It is kind of crazy with all this stuff and all this problems with police brutality and not just police brutality, police accountability.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you should be making video games about it, right?
I know, but they are.
Yeah.
And it's coming
will.
I was at a preview event for that game, for the single player of it, which has a story that talks about the American police force and they just won't talk about it, and they can't, I guess. But it's so disappointing to obviously with the political climate right now. Is that something that you guys are thinking about whilst developing this game? No, we're here to make a Battlefield Hardline game. We don't really want to talk about that too much.
Well, it's you've fucking got to.
Yeah.
And this is why I got fed up.
You've got to respond to
This is why I got fed up going to events and stuff, and it's just when you have developers being we don't want to talk about that. It's well, of course you don't.
Would you like to know how many guns there are in this video game?
But you have to talk about
47 guns, and they have a variety of modifications.
And I mean, the thing is, it shouldn't have taken this or these events for them to realise that was a mistake, because the actual problem behind all this stuff is to do with the fact that the militarisation of local police and the fact that they're being sold fucking tanks, basically military armoured vehicles and all this stuff. It's there's been a problem brewing for a while in America in terms of gearing up local armies almost and giving them really cool stuff, and it's this is a problem. And then to make games aggrandise and it's that. Even it doesn't take people being killed for that, for what you've done there in terms of creating a product about how cool it is that the police are becoming like the military, to be not a cool thing to make.
I don't follow Hardline, so I could be speaking well out of turn, but that's not why they delayed it, is it?
No,
to try and move it away from the controversial area.
Levels where you kill loads of black kids.
Seriously,
maybe we take them out.
Yeah, take that bit, but that wasn't right. They had a reason. I didn't see the reason.
The delay came after the multiplayer beta. As far as I know, that it was the reaction to the beta and the kind of.
But I guess the point I was trying to make is that it's it's not really about that stuff directly, but I guess when you look at the way that a lot of the world is reacting to the events that have been happening in America at the moment in terms of the relationship that the police have with their community and how acceptable that is, the sheer quantity of backlash from a lot of Americans who just don't seem to have any issue with the police effectively being a militarized force who aren't accountable. And you sort of go, oh my God, like there are loads of people, especially in North America, I think, who just their political views on like power and government and like control are just like so far detached from the rest of the world. But I think it's just interesting because I think Call of Duty now represents a kind of a snapshot of what American culture in terms of
kind of does, I know what you're saying, yeah, it kind of does.
And what I find sad about that is I don't think that's true of the people making the game.
Well, I was literally about to say whether that's their intent or not is the other question.
I think they're trapped in it. They can't not do that.
It feels like they're always pulling punches, and playing the campaign this year, it felt like they wanted to make a point, and then just when they're about to make a point, they just stop, and it's like, what? Like,
it's just the campaign is. It really does feel like they said we have to put a campaign on it. Get Kevin Spacey and throw something together. Yeah, okay, that sounds good. And it's just, you're 100% right. It's like it feels like it's building. It builds to nothing. It builds to nothing. It just peters out and it stops and goes, you want to go play the multiplayer?
And at one point I was like, is this going to be really good? It seems to be making a really good point about because there's I mean, this is a spoiler, but it's basically the point where the bad guy at one point is basically like, you realise his motivations are he's just like, I'm sick of America warmongering around the world and causing new wars and not ever solving any problems and just starting more wars. And it's like, all right. It's like, at this point, maybe you're supposed to be like, fuck you, man, I'm going to kill you. But like, I was just like, no, I'm actually with this guy. And then you've got all the characters being like, we've got to kill him, we've got to stop him. And I'm just like, can we not have a chat with him? Can we not find a compromise here?
I've just realised,
maybe it's a good idea.
It's a bit like Team America Advanced Warfare, I've just realised. It's like that whole kind of pomposity of it. Like, no, we're right. Don't listen to the logic he just said. Just kill him. And then it's almost like within the game, it does its own like political thing of almost having a smear campaign of then like having like plot developments about the bad guy where you find out other things that the bad guy's doing. They're just like, oh, he's done that. Oh my God.
Ignore the other thing.
That's disgusting. He's definitely a bad man.
But we must shoot him in his face.
But rather than just like inventing that and like suggesting it, it shows. It feels like a game that's like the story's fascinating just because it feels like it's actually arguing with itself about what it wants to say.
Yeah.
It's like an internal conflict. But the thing that I was going to say is, it's people now like forget that it's all like, oh, gung ho America. But the best one, the first Modern Warfare. I can't remember who it was who pointed this out to me, but really, the story of the first Modern Warfare was a bunch of gung-ho Americans go into a situation they don't understand and they cause a fucking shitstorm.
Yeah.
They bash into Iraq to do something and then don't realise what they've done, make things worse, and a nuke goes off. And then the rest of the game is the SAS fixing their mess.
It's true.
So it's not like America, fuck yeah. It's like the British going, oh, fucking you bloody American numpties.
But Modern Warfare, it's really dark, that single player. All of it is really intense and horrible, and
I think I played it when I was too young, to be honest. I should probably go back.
Oh man, it's like
it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. Like the story, the way they tell it, plus how they title him with being interactive and all that nonsense is just like that's why it was so good because you play it and you're like, wow, I really feel affected by. What war can be and what war is and how people can suffer in war. And then obviously what came after that, Black Ops? Whatever came next was like, wee! And it's like, oh, we're not doing this anymore, are we?
Okay. 2, I think was the...
you're right, that was the worst one. Especially because it is the spiritual or direct sequel to that game. And it's like, blow up everything.
Maybe it was World at War that came afterwards, wasn't it? And that was the one where it was like...
Well, that was the worst.
That was the embarrassment because it was like after one of the best games ever. Then it was like Treyarch being like... Here's our one. And everyone being like...
We didn't realise you changed everything about Call of Duty.
I don't mind if you want to make your game needlessly gory, I guess. But in a game which is just based on... it treats people like savages, that game. It's really... World at War is the problematic to hell and back.
I honestly think like the way that they've evolved in terms of the narrative really fascinates me. Because I guess that what was wonderful about the first Modern Warfare was they weren't making it for... Well, they were making it for an audience, but they weren't making it to suit a particular audience.
You're right, isn't it? Yeah.
They didn't have the mega audience until after that game. So those guys were just making a fucking good modern shooter trying to tell a modern story about war. And then after that, it was more that like you have an audience of this demographic. You have to please that demographic.
It's true.
And I don't think that happened immediately, but I think that's definitely something that seeped in.
I think so. It's almost so cliche, but it's true. It's a victim of its own success. It's like you may want to evolve it, but if you evolve it, you then affect the people that buy into it every year. So when does the big change happen? And I still think as good as Advanced Warfare is, it's got to happen soon. Eventually that will die. This formula will die and something else will rise from the ashes. Who knows when?
It's like, I mean, I can't really take it off because it's just like the same way. It's the same way I enjoy Destiny.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of mindless guff, but I love it. It's like Advanced Warfare, like, it's meaningless. Like, it's a game with nothing to say and not a lot to add. It's just very good.
Yeah.
which is fine sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's just it's kind of a problem when you've got like a story which is trying to deal with politics and stuff.
And failing miserably, yeah.
It's like talking to somebody at the pub who will not shut up. And there's nothing interesting to talk about. Anyway.
There you go. That is a sidetrack. I enjoyed it.
I'll tell you a little game I've been playing though, actually. I think Gav mentioned it to me a couple of podcasts ago. I've been playing Shovel Knight on the 3DS.
Right.
You can get it on the Wii U as well.
If you've got one of those.
It's I've ordered one actually.
Have you really? Good for you, man. I like it. You can play Mario Kart.
Hey,
It's got Mario Kart on it. The Wii U is the best console that people forget.
Sisters got to look out for each other, Brad. No, I'm getting Mario Kart with it.
Oh, it's still great. Still the best game.
And Super Mario 3D World, which I remember playing with you.
Yeah.
And having
just so good.
an incredible time. We would just laugh for 15 minutes.
Exactly. The Wii U is secretly the best console.
That's the thing.
Two good games.
Somebody asked, they said, obviously, I was quite down on the future of the Wii U podcasts ago. Do I still think that's the case? And as I keep saying, yes, like, that's not going to change. I think the Wii U is
done.
It's done.
Yeah.
It's like, it's fucked. But that doesn't matter. Like, it's like, I'm buying one now because I always said I would buy one when it got to the price where I thought, yeah. And it's hit that point.
And
now.
we don't have to worry about how many it sells. I don't care. I just want to enjoy it.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's a real tendency for people to get like stuck in armchair statistics and being like, my console's better than yours because it sold the most.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just unless you're Iwata, don't worry about how many consoles that Wii U sold. If you're listening, yes, you need to worry.
Although actually, I'm worried about Iwata because he seems like a funny, nice guy.
It's true.
So
he may lose his job. But yeah, no, the Wii U's great.
I mean, what little I've played, it feels like a good time to get it just because it's so cheap. I'm looking forward to playing some stuff.
Yeah.
And also, I've realised because I don't do adverts on my YouTube channel, I can just put videos in Nintendo games up. And if they're like, we own them, I'll be like, yeah, fine.
Whatever, mate. Do whatever you want.
Take it, dickhead.
But Shovel Knight. I don't know what Shovel Knight is. Should I get it? I have a Wii U and I have a 3DS.
Yeah, you should.
Okay.
It's basically, I wasn't sure I was going to like it because it's done to look like a NES game.
Okay.
And it's basically like a NES side scroller, like Mega Man style or whatever. But you're a little knight with a shovel, and you can do like the kind of DuckTales style pogo downwards with your shovel,
slowly with it,
and you can also just hit stuff with it.
Right.
But it's really, really good. The main reason I didn't think I was going to like it is because I'm not fond of the harshness of those old games. Often they were just like irritatingly difficult. And a bit repetitive as well.
I heard it was quite challenging, right? I've only seen little bits and pieces of it, but
it's challenging, but it's not challenging for the wrong reasons. The problem is with a lot of older games is they had to be challenging to make them last a while because you couldn't put that much stuff physically on the car, and so if you didn't want people to finish your game in an hour,
exactly,
you had to just make it really hard.
I thought that's very true.
It's literally just all they did.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
I remember like the early games taped, like this game's got 18 screens, 18 different screens you can walk on. That's mental. Like, how have they done that?
Yeah,
it was incredible. But so this is difficult, but it's difficult in a way that's quite fun and quite varied. And it's kind of like one of those games that's so good it frustrates me because I wish it did more. In the fact that I wish it was a bit like a kind of Castlevania style thing with a world map, and because you go like the screens do slide like Zelda style, and you explore the levels looking for secrets, looking for secret treasure. But at the same time, it's like it does what it does. It's got kind of Mario 3 style world map where you can go around to different locations.
Oh, this sounds amazing. This. Yeah, well up for this.
You earn money, and it's got the kind of slightly Dark Souls style thing of if you die, then you leave bags of money where you died, and if you die again, getting back to it, you lose that money. But it's like, it's really fun. It's got good writing and lots of like characters. It's funny.
I was going to ask why a shovel is that part of the humour?
It is, but it's like a subtle humour. It doesn't overdo it. It's not like trying to be wacky with gags.
Like, he's lost his sword and he's trying to get it back?
No, you just use your shovel.
His chosen weapon is a shovel.
He's proud of his shovel. He's proud of his damn shovel. That's what it's his weapon of choice.
People take the piss out of you. Like the bosses you fight take the piss out of the fact you've got a shovel.
If I was a boss in that game, I probably would.
This sounds wonderful to me.
I don't know why he's got a shovel though, but also it's got a nice story.
Yeah.
In the fact that at the start it tells the story of the Shovel Knight and Shield Knight, and Shield Knight was clearly his lover. Right. They used to fight together, but then one day, like a long time ago, like they obviously
she
died.
met someone that had an actual sword.
Oh. And it does this thing between levels where like it's like kind of a callback to Golden Axe, like him being asleep by the fire. But then after you've done a level, you have a dream where it's like
Lost Odyssey,
where like she's falling from the sky, like Shield Knight, and it says catch her, and you have to like fight the enemies and then catch her before she hits the ground.
I'm playing that. I'm sold.
It's just
I'm
really
super
touching,
sold.
but I don't know where it's going with that, and I kind of wonder if there's going to be a nice little arc. But on a basic level, it's just like it's got that kind of classic NES style music. Music's really good. It uses the classic color palettes, so sometimes it has like a purposefully crunched down color palette, like there aren't enough colors to make stuff work. really retro vibe. But also the design of it is really modern and it's really generous with ideas. Like when you go to new areas and stuff, it does that classic game design thing of introducing a new things that are just for that area, but introducing them in the perfect order so you work out how everything works. And it's really good. It's like, it was one of those games where I was put off by it because it looks like a kind of traditional NES-style retro adventure, which I was never that big fan of that era of games anyway. I wasn't a fan of Mega Man or all that, or DuckTales. And also the fact that it cost like 13 quid.
It's download, right?
Yeah. And I was like, that's the steep, because it's like, I looked at it and thought, you're only worth about 4 quid. That's my brain was telling me.
I'm overpaying.
Which was harsh, but no, it is actually like, it's a very good thing. And also, something nobody bloody told me about is, one of the first things you meet in the game is a kind of god deity that's basically the equivalent of the big fairy from Zelda, because it fills up your potion bowls. It's called the Troople God, and it's the Troople King, sorry. It's a big fish that is a cross between a trout and an apple.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's incredible.
We got Brown board now as well. Everyone's on board.
I wasn't really following it until then, but yeah.
It's like, I just thought this is a really good game for a lot of good reasons. And a lot of people said to me, a lot of people said Shovel Knight is excellent, and I thought, all right, yeah, check it out. But I thought, why did nobody just tell me, Matt, you got to play this game? It's got a trout that's like half trout, half apple. I'm just like, yeah, all right. Where are we meeting? When are we doing this?
Yeah. They should have called it that. They should have called it Troople.
Yeah. Troople
King. Yeah, they should have. That would have been better. But I will play this. Whoever makes this game, you have just earned them £13. That sounds like something
I've no
right
regrets.
up my street.
No regrets. I'm really enjoying it. It's really, really nice. Really good. Yeah. You been playing anything else, Brett?
I've been having a bit of a Telltale binge. So I don't know if you guys know this, but Telltale Games
release all the games.
And they're also releasing some pretty good ones at the moment. Like, The Walking Dead Season 2 earlier in the year, really big fan of that. And so, yeah, 2 very different things in the last couple of weeks.
I haven't touched, since The Walking Dead, I played a bit of Wolf Among Us, didn't really like
I think
where
I was
it was
probably
going.
the same,
and I didn't bother with Walking Dead Season 2.
No, I don't think I feel like I had my fill.
Well, I honestly think you should give it a Season 2. It's great. But the 2 over the last couple of weeks were Tales from the Borderlands and Game of Thrones, which... Like, before I played either of them, I had 2 very different reactions to those franchises being involved with Telltale. Like, Game of Thrones feels like this perfect mix because it's a world of very harsh decisions and consequence, and tying that with Telltale makes a lot of sense. But they released a trailer that was pretty much just like, it was just the major characters from the TV show. I think it's actually, they are linked with HBO in terms of distribution or something. And, they want to get that TV audience on board. But that turned me off because I thought they were going to tell a story that couldn't have much choice involved, because if you're talking about the main characters, I already know all the choices they make. And then Tales from the Borderlands, on the other hand, Borderlands, Handsome Jack's quite funny, but I do not care about that universe at all. Like, the story has never been the thing that's kind of drawn me into it.
No.
It's
I thought they did a decent story.
Yeah, it's all right.
The second game, particularly, I thought, actually, that was quite a decent story.
Yeah. Takes a hell of a long time to get through it, though.
Really care.
But yeah, both of them surprised me really nicely. Like, Tales from the Borderlands has the Borderlands humor without the kind of the grinding, which I've kind of fallen out of love with the actual Borderlands style of game. But it's got the better parts of the humor from Borderlands 2, and also it's not just, it knows it's a Borderlands game and makes jokes about that, but it also knows it's a Telltale game. And it knows that you have played Telltale games before and have expectations of what that means. And so it does some interesting stuff. It's a story that's told by 2 characters. One is this kind of a kind of middle manager in Hyperion, which is the Handsome Jack's company, and another one is just kind of a con artist on the actual planet Pandora. And they've unwillingly had to work together to achieve some kind of goal. And they're telling the story, at least in this first episode, as part of a flashback. And like, sometimes one of them will just make some stuff up, and you play through that without realizing it, and maybe you'll even be making the telltale decisions along the way. And then the other character will go, hang about, that didn't happen. That's ridiculous.
It's like Dragon Age 2.
That sounds frustrating, but it's actually done in a really funny way and quite sparingly. And also, like, the kind of QT prompts that Telltale has, you've got your decisions, and the other part of the game is kind of, press W to avoid a sword cutting off your head or whatever. It plays around with that. And, it'll bring a prompt up, and you expect if you hammer a button that you'll succeed. And your character is like a goofy middle manager guy that can't quite manage to do what you're trying to do. And it's really funny as a result. I'm trying to say this without spoiling exactly what happens. So yeah, a really, really funny game. I care about those two characters. They also, one of the best things they do in the Borderlands Telltale stuff is there's a Vault Hunter character. It's Zero, I think, which is like the ninja guy from the first game. And he's going around just slaughtering everyone in the background. And your two characters are often like really freaked out by him. And he represents you as the player in Borderlands. And they constantly make jokes out of it.
It's quite good, actually.
And like you see yourself like going around in the background, like slaying people and picking loot up or whatever, and like just destroying this world that people are actually trying to live on. And you're these characters that hate actual combat, don't like getting involved in shooting things, which is Borderlands.
That sounds quite good.
And so they've created this really funny game as a result. And God, did I not expect to be impressed by Borderlands teaming up with Telltale? Like,
I mean, I guess it's too much of it seems flippant. I think Borderlands, when it does it right, can be really, really funny. But sometimes it's just like...
You know what my problem with Borderlands, I think I've realised, is Claptrap. I think Claptrap is too popular for his own good.
Well, they kind of know. Because in the second game, I loved what they did with Claptrap. And in fact, in the first game, Claptrap was the most fucking annoying thing in the world. And then in between the firyst game and the second game, suddenly everyone was like, hey, Claptrap! Hey, it's the best really fucking everybody.
I don't think I ever got past that.
Nobody loves Claptrap. He's a cunt. Sorry, not my language, but he is. And then in the second game, I loved him. And actually... I came to really like him because they painted him as this really tragic character.
There's telling jokes that no one, and like having parties that no one wants to go to.
There was a bit like going to his birthday party and there's no one there, and it's just like, I don't know, like
maybe okay.
He still talked about himself as if he was like amazing, but there was something about him that I actually kind of quite liked it because he was like, he wasn't just like a stupid dancing robot. He was a robot that was so utterly like in denial about who he was, and that it was like, you're breaking my heart, dude. Stop it.
Maybe that's fair enough. I might be a bit harsh on the little guy, but
the one I can't stand Tiny Tina. Tiny Tina irritates the hell out.
The only character they've drawn upon is Handsome Jack. This is after Handsome Jack has died, so it's after Borderlands 2. I didn't actually play the pre-sequel. I don't know if it's bringing any of that stuff across. I don't think so. It's all inconsequential characters.
I'm going to say it's difficult, right? Because I don't want what I'm going to ask you next to seem inconsequential.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like after I got a bit burnt with The Wolf Among Us, because after the first episode of The Wolf Among Us, I thought, oh my God, this is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And then after the second episode, I was like,
lost its way.
I don't. And then the third one, I was like,
yeah. I
sort of think like, no. You start with a great foundation, and especially because they are based so much on choice and the feeling of like, it's just sort of, I'm a bit concerned now about like biting anything. I think I kind of want to hear back if people say the second and third one of these things are good before.
Yeah, sure. I actually, I've seen a number of sites talking about not reviewing these episodic games until the end. I think that's quite sensible. Talk about them on an episodic basis, but maybe hold off on that.
Because I remember like with the Walking Dead, the first one, it was like that thing of being like every episode was like, this is good, this is good.
Oh yeah.
And then when it got to the end, it was just like standing ovation. Like you did it
all the way through.
But with
it's true.
The Wolf Among Us, it was
I think
not the case.
It's weird, isn't it? Because I would say if you feel like that, hold off until the end. But also there is something nice about having that
being involved in
conversation as it's going along. It's weird.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree. Like sort of water cooler stuff.
I think maybe you can hold off on Tales from the Borderlands a little easier than maybe the Game of Thrones stuff, because I feel like Tales from Borderlands is focusing largely on like whimsy and funny jokes.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Please tell me about the Game of Thrones thing. Is it good? Because I've heard such mixed things.
I liked it a lot. I went into it after hearing that people were.
It's been like a mixed bag of nuts.
About it. I really really enjoyed it. It's the problem it has, and I think this is maybe the main complaint that people have put forward, is that because it's set after the Red Wedding, and by the way, Tales from Borderlands, you can go in completely fresh. If you don't care about Borderlands, it doesn't really matter. The Game of Thrones stuff, you really need to know. You need to watch the TV show or read the
I like
books.
that though. So I think occasionally having assumed knowledge for a game is nice because it's different. No games do that.
It actually.
Can you imagine it was spoiler free? They're going to the wall. The wall is a place where men go.
Exactly.
Serve out for the rest of it.
It'd be awful. You want to be like, I fucking know.
Well, you know from the get-go that it's not doing that because it starts off as you're playing House Forrester, which is a bannerman of the Stark family. And you start off in the camp at the Red Wedding where everyone's getting drunk and being happy, and then
That's selling well.
we
got a great day.
And when the events of the Red Wedding take place, at no point do they even stop and say, by the way, inside those towers over there, this is what happened. They just expect that you know that, and or just that you'll react to it with the information that you've got, which I really like. I really wouldn't play it without that, because when it does bring in characters from the existing lore, one of the major characters so far has been Ramsay Bolton, which is like the really creepy guy that likes to cut people's bits off.
Are they same voices, same actors?
And Peter Dinklage is in it, totally fine. He can do games. He just doesn't do Destiny.
He just, funnily enough, like lots of actors, probably phones in lines that are a bit weak.
Yeah, he was.
They've been paid a lot of money to do.
So look at it and go, all right, that wizard came from the moon.
I'm going home.
Yeah, no, not the same here. It's good. It's voiced and they've got the same likeness. Although they've got this. My complaint with the whole thing has been that it's like this weird mix of the kind of Telltale traditional art style mixed with this kind of
photorealism.
Yeah, and
really?
But they've done a little bit of like they've got this kind of paintbrush effect. So I think it's almost supposed to like maybe almost some of it's to look like a painting of something going on within that story.
I think they did that with The Wolf Among Us a bit though, didn't they? It was almost like a kind of painterly.
Yeah, but it doesn't quite work here. Like one of the worst examples here has been Lady Marjorie. Her face is just the proportions of someone. You know it's her, but something's happened to her.
A terrible accident they're not talking about.
What have they done to you?
But yeah, so they actually handle that stuff well. It feels there is definite fan service there. Like Tyrion turns up when he doesn't. I didn't really think Tyrion needed to be in the first episode, but it was quite nice to see.
I guess your face lit up when you said that. You loved it.
It was good. And. Yeah, so sorry, to go back to that original complaint that people have had, because it's set straight after the Red Wedding, and your family is connected to one of these major, story arcs. You're not ever going to change the world because those decisions, those big decisions, the big kind of war that's going on, those things have already been decided well in advance.
But that doesn't matter.
It doesn't. I think
just maybe care about the smaller things or whatever you're trying to portray.
Maybe.
I mean, I guess the concern is that they need to. It's all very well to do what they've done, and I see hopefully why they've done it is, for what I've noticed, is so you have like Twitter and Facebook full of pictures of Tyrion Lannister and saying,
and so they can do that trailer,
and Cersei going, it's Game of Thrones. But hopefully after that, they just need to not use those characters.
I agree.
They need to just have it full of characters that you've never seen before.
But just make me care. That's all you got to do. That's what I did with The Walking Dead. I didn't know this cast of characters, but you made me care about them. So.
They've actually done something there. I completely agree. The first episode feels very much like a prologue. Like it's a lot of scene setting where, because you're playing 3 characters this time, and kind of in the Game of Thrones style, they're all the Forrester family has been splintered across Westeros. They mirror the Starks in a lot of ways. And like
so difficult not to make jokes. Spoilers. Carry on.
Sorry. And yeah, it's strange. I feel like this first episode was really them saying, "Great, this is where they are. These are the major things that have happened to their family that are gonna, decide how your decisions work from here on forwards." But as a result, you can't really change anything in that first episode. The decisions you make hint that things later on might alter as a result.
I've heard a few people saying they kept replaying the first episode.
Yeah, I actually saw a Destructoid review that said they played it a few times and the end results always seem to be the same.
I mean that's pretty standard.
Yeah, I think that happens.
That's just the way they work. Okay, that's fine. But I guess it's the sense of I really think they just need to stay away, and I think hopefully they will do that because they've chosen a location.
Yeah.
like for these people that is not really
They
featured.
they do the Game of Thrones TV intro in a Telltale style, and then like they do the kind of King's Landing, the wall, and then the camera like moves drastically to like the northwest corner of the map, and it's like, oh, here's where you are, and they do their own little thing for House Forester, which I thought was quite nice. But yeah, I want to see them stay in that little corner of the world, or their little, where these characters
That's
are.
it. There's a lot of the North just isn't explored or talked about, and that's fine.
And these two families that they're talking about, I wasn't actually sure really, but I looked into it, and I think they're mentioned briefly in the in like A Dance with Dragons, the actual book, but they haven't even been shown in the TV show, and so they've got a lot of room to just kind of do what they want. And there's two families. There's House Forester, and then their rival family, I think called the White Hills, and it looks like the whole series is going to be about the conflict between these two houses. Like power control after the Red Wedding.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
And I like it. So many of you can see that like they've created a lot of brand new characters. They've had to, but they all you can see a connection between almost all of them and a character that you know from the story itself. The characterizations have definitely been taken from that, which I like. I hope that they do experiment a little bit more. So like just like the Master at Arms at your kind of town is very similar to one from Winterfell, and the Maester feels quite. It feels like they're the same characters
Just
with different
another
names.
Maester sort of thing,
which is all right.
I guess familiarity, but I don't know. I'm interested again. It's difficult. It's like
the problem is with this one holding off. So like it has an amazing ending to this first episode that complete like really got me on board.
It's so difficult though, because it's annoying because I want to be involved in that, and what excited me most about The Walking Dead when I first played it was you do get those. I was like, oh my god, it's like that water cooler moment that I've never understood when I'm in an office and everyone's talking about what's on telly. And
this is my chance.
What are you talking about?
Suddenly it's like this is what it's like for normal people.
I can be one.
I can be normal just once every few years.
I was desperate for that to happen with season 2 of The Walking Dead, because that was that defined the first one. I was the only person that I knew that had played it.
Small violins.
It's I know it's not much.
I can't talk about The Walking Dead 2 with anyone.
But still, it would be nice. And I'm kind of worried that's going to happen with at least one, maybe even both of these.
I think it's strange they're just throwing them out.
Telltale keep doing this.
Yeah, why don't they pace themselves better?
I need a solid schedule. Like, loads of people are excited about Game of Thrones. Maybe it just kind of appeared, didn't it? Like,
I don't know, maybe they've just decided that actually the Venn diagram between people who care enough about Borderlands and people who care enough about Game of Thrones is wide enough.
There must be an argument there, surely.
You can totally play these two side by side as well. Even though I thought maybe that's too much Telltale, they're very, very different tones, as you might imagine.
I still would have.
Maybe they're just made by different teams with different marketing departments.
They have no idea. They don't talk to each other.
What do you mean you just released yours?
It's just like,
oh my god, we're ruined.
I couldn't tell you when the next episode is coming out. Like for either of them, like you should get to the end of it, and I want to play more of both, and it should be like. In 2 weeks' time,
no, you don't. You have to. They just turn up.
It'll just turn up, and I'll be like, "Oh shit, what happened in that first episode?"
That's the problem. It's so frustrating because, like, after years of making kind of a bit not quite very good point-and-click episodic things, they nailed it so hard with the first Walking Dead, and gave me such immense faith in the company.
Yeah.
And then after that, like, it's sort of been a bit wobbly. Like, and I do really want to get involved with it, and I want to have that kind of episodic thing where I'm jumping on it straight away, but I just feel like it's one of those things where I could just buy just the first episode, but then it's like, well, it's not really good value, so you might
not if you don't know when the next one's coming either.
You might buy the full thing, but then what if it's not very good again?
It's like £22 or something, I think, for like a full season of either of these.
They just need to do one a week or whatever. Just make the damn game and then release it in,
I just feel like they haven't got consistent enough with their craft to be to do that. Like it's, I don't know. It's like, I mean, the Walking Dead TV series I'm watching now. Like if suddenly they reinvigorated their funding model or something for television and said, "Hey, next series of Walking Dead TV shows out. If you want to watch it, it's going to be £15." I'd be like, yep, all right, because I've seen enough of what they do to know
you like it.
They'll probably, it might be like not as good as the last one, but it'll be quite good.
Yeah.
Like whereas I feel like it's like unlike when you have TV shows, you sort of think this is going to consistently be quite good. I just don't know with Telltale.
So maybe like that's fair enough. Like, but so maybe the episodic formula for games is considered new or whatever, but it's they're learning from the TV model, right? Like they're learning from people watching an episode of maybe The Walking Dead or The Game of Thrones, and then going to the office or
and getting excited about next Wednesday or whatever to watch another one.
How did they not learn that bit? There's obviously a reason there.
You're completely right. The scheduling is so important. Like you need
get
to
excited about it,
even if it's a month away or 2 months away. You need a date.
I think that's actually what killed season 2 of The Walking Dead. It definitely had enough. People were worried about it because it was weird to have a new protagonist or whatever, but that series has got a lot of love for so few people to be talking about it.
Actually, I mean, one of the podcasts I'm most enjoying at the moment, it's kind of like tapering off a bit now because you kind of get the impression maybe it doesn't have... Yeah, maybe you kind of get the impression maybe it might not have that many places to go because obviously if they did, then...
That Thanksgiving week, hurt me.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Serial basically is a podcast about... I'm not sure how I feel about it in some ways because it's kind of like maybe capitalizing on the death of somebody, an actual death, but it's really good. And it's basically, you should just check it out. Listen to it from the start. It's kind of fascinating.
But I bet half the fun is that it comes out on the same
every Thursday.
Yeah, and that's what you look forward to.
Last week,
that's what's so important.
Because it was Thanksgiving. Oh, because a bunch of Americans are doing something with a turkey. No podcast for me. Yeah. Fuck off.
It annoys, doesn't it? Because you get into that routine, and that's why
it ruined my day.
Yeah,
it also just within our office, there were I think there's 3 of us listening to it at the moment, and there was quite a lot of hype about it each week. Just having a week off unexpectedly because it did come out of the blue. Really dampen that. So when Telltale just release stuff and then go, we don't know when the next one's coming out, we'll just tell you maybe a few days before.
They need to, honestly, I think they're more important than they can release all the games in the world if they want. They clearly want to do that.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know how they haven't got that nailed yet.
They have to.
There's an interesting story there.
Just make the first 3 before you put the first one out.
Exactly. It makes no sense.
You just cheat it. I mean, maybe they're worried about responding to feedback, but I don't know.
Be confident. You just have to be confident.
You have to. No, you're right.
I would invest in a Game of Thrones game right now if I knew, what are we on today? Thursday. Next Thursday, I'm getting episode 2. Thursday after that, I get episode 3. Brilliant. Even if it's bad, some of the Games of Thrones episodes I thought weren't as good as the others, but I invest in it. They need to do that. Episodic games need to do that.
If they were smart, actually, what they'd do is they'd have the whole series made. It would be a 6-week thing. Yeah. It would be 6 weeks, and you get it every week, and it would all be made before they release the first one.
I can't believe
and then they'd have press like they do what TV does. They have press preview screens where they let press play it under the promise that you say you're not going to review this, but you're not going to and you have being you can't say any of these things, but just to be able to have just treat it like a TV show.
Exactly.
I don't get why not. And you know what? The trailers they do at the end of each episode, I've seen the trailers for episode 2 of both of those series now. Would be nice to have just having a date at the end of that trailer would be really important.
It is odd.
Dangle that carrot.
You would think that they would have got their process nailed down enough now to be able to do that.
Yep.
But apparently not.
No, but they don't know, and they're just going to shit all the games out.
They both be very fun to play, though. I've been surprised by both of them in equal measure, and that was nice. Yes.
Excellent. There we go. Okay, questions. First one's quite an easy one, so we can cover that one quite easily. Rob Croston says, buggy, unfinished games, the reviewers need to be harsher on day one offerings before devs/publishers take note. That's not the problem. That's not the problem at all. The problem is that a lot of developers and publishers don't get code to people before day one. Mm-hmm.
Or recently, we haven't had access to the online multiplayer in advance, and that will be on release day.
I remember, this is years ago, but when online multiplayer was everyone gone, right, this is a thing now. I'm still working on magazines, and they were where you just have to play the game in retail when it comes out online. We don't have any review facilities. So you put an 8, a 7 on it. Why you didn't talk about the multiplayer? You didn't let me play it. What do you want?
Especially with magazines, it's you've got to.
Well, deadlines are so far in advance. We always used to ask, can I play the multiplayer? No, we don't care about that. And even now, they haven't got it right. It's come on, guys. Surely by now you must have it down. But
increasingly, they either don't give you code until the game is out or just about to be out, or they give you code early but then embargo you to
the nines.
The problem is, at the moment, everyone's what will it take for devs and publishers to take notice? I don't know, because devs and publishers don't really care.
No, they don't. No.
That's the problem. Is I don't think the only thing that will change it is if people end up actually boycotting games on a major scale. But
you got to vote with your wallet.
It doesn't really. Apart from that, at the moment, the problem is not to do with press not being harsher. It's the fact that you just can't get access to stuff. Also, especially the fact that, as a solo entity, if you're a publication and you've maybe pissed off a publisher or developer, more often publishers. It's more often PRs that are annoyed. They're not really annoyed with you. It's just somebody senior to them has had a go at them, and now they're like, they're kind of annoyed with you simply because you've made them trouble. Then that can be a problem. But if you're in a publication, it's not too bad because maybe somebody else in the publication can talk to them about it, smooth it out or whatever. Or maybe the bosses can be like, that employee might have pissed you off. But but you can fix that. But if you're like a single person, like if you're just like me, like if you piss off a publisher, that's it. Like, you're fucked. Because it's not even a case of like somebody else who you work with can go and smooth it out, or your boss can talk to them or whatever, your boss can tell them that maybe you should apologise for something. Like you just can't. They're just not going to reply to you. And it is weird. It's this funny thing of being like, people being, why don't people call out stuff? It's like, well, I don't call out like dodgy quality of early review code most days because nobody sends me anything.
I don't know. Exactly,
for reasons I'm not sure about, I've pissed off most publishers, I think, because they just often either don't reply to my emails or they do reply and then don't do the things that they say they were going to.
Always nice.
Which is kind of standard, but I just can't be bothered because chances are at some point I've pissed them off and I sort of think, all right, I'll do it without this. But that's an easy question. It's not our bloody fault.
No.
It's the publishers.
I think review processes people are talking a lot more about that and how that needs to change with, particularly with like stuff like the online multiplayer not coming in till later on. I think people are reacting to that.
The problem is it used to be that like if you worked in print, you get access to it a lot earlier.
Weeks
because
before,
you had to.
Jesus.
Otherwise,
I never had access to
sometimes like a month before launch, and that was because you had to play it, review it, and then put the mag in. But that was like a two-way thing. Mags had huge circulations. Mags were like one of the best ways to get people to hear about games. So publishers would be like, we need to get the code finished for reviewers so that we can get the good review of our good game in the mags, sell copies. Whereas then it became this thing of online journalists were always really fucked off because they're like, well, they've had it for weeks. Why can't we have it?
Yeah. I remember all of that.
Yeah, and then websites getting fucked off. And then websites eventually started to get more powerful and more important. And so then websites would be getting code around the same time as magazines. Then magazines became completely irrelevant. And suddenly it was like, hang on a minute, we only really ever needed to give it to people really early for the magazines. Now we don't need to do that. We can just stop doing it. And now they've gone, hang on a minute.
We haven't given it to them at all.
Nobody really cares.
Yeah.
Like we can just give it to some YouTubers and they'll Yelp over it for 10 minutes and that will sell infinitely more copies than a critique. Because you know what? Critiques can sometimes be negative.
YouTubers love it.
Whereas a YouTuber going, look at me, I'm a knight, will be fine.
10 out of 10.
So yeah, it's the big problem is nothing to do with press really. It's the fact that publishers do not give a fuck.
Yeah.
And fair play. But it is ridiculous now. It seems like often the best way is like, it seems like if I wanted to take it seriously, the best thing to do would just be like, get loads of contacts in dodgy warehouses or like dodgy game shops.
Like independent game shops, go in there and get it early.
You're going to consistently get access to code better by
not signing things.
By not signing things.
So true.
Which is insane. But anyway.
We live in a crazy world.
We just got to wait for the mighty eclipse of the point at which publishers and PR decide that dealing with games media in terms of giving them things and helping them is in any way beneficial to them.
Yes.
Because at the moment they've kind of decided that it just isn't.
They can't be asked.
And so they can't be asked.
Lovely people.
Well, it's fair enough. They've got a job to do.
Well, it's their code, their game, they can do whatever they want with it.
Yeah,
but on the other side of the fence, it creates problems for journalists because they've got a job to do too.
Yeah.
And they're at war. Not like a real war, but...
And there will be blood. Heard it here first. Miller's Christmas Massacre coming soon.
Yeah,
read about it in the Daily Mail.
A couple of weeks, I'm looking forward to it.
You played video games.
Exactly, therefore I am
this
evil.
Video game loving muscle man.
I was going to say, we've gone through like quite a long podcast so far without you reacting angrily towards anything. Like this is the first hint of Simon wanted to go to war with someone.
Oh, there we go, yeah. I'm building my anger. I'm going to explode by the end of it.
Is it the voice?
It's too hard to shout with this voice.
Okay.
I like to think we have a different atmosphere here, you know. Yeah. I used to be really angry all the time.
But now we're calm and happy and everything's good with the world.
Mr. It's Not Stephen says, please cover the awful Destiny updates. Can't wait for this. I'm not going to do that because I've talked about Destiny and its Destiny updates are not going to be of much interest to most people, but I'm sure I'll be talking about it in a separate video because if you haven't noticed, I've been talking about Destiny fuck tons, like way more than anyone wants, most people. But so I've kind of tried to cordon that off now. It's like a crime
have a little
scene,
area for it. Okay.
Yeah, nobody wants to see dead bodies apart from the forensics team, so we just, let's just keep the dead body in the dead body box. And finally, this is a good one. Luke Summerhaze asks, What's your best Christmas gaming experience?
Oh, that's easy. I thought it was going to be hard. It's not. It's Ocarina of Time. That came. Well, I got it for Christmas.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
I think it came out over Christmas. I assume because I got it over Christmas.
I think it was Christmas of 1996.
Yes. I don't know the year. I can't pretend I do. So we'll go with yes. That's 100% correct. I have no idea.
It's in 95 or 96, I think.
Okay, but that was that was easily. I remember I got it on Christmas Day. I remember I wanted to play it so badly that when my mum said we're going to my grandparents' house, I went nope. I stayed at Ocarina of Time. She went, if you do, Ocarina of Time won't be here when I get back. And I'm like, okay, I'll come. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's the perfect game. It was the perfect age.
Same for me.
Yeah, it just felt like Christmas. I don't really know what that means, but it just did.
I remember as well that year it was a white Christmas, and well, where I was anyway, I was up in Cheshire, and it was snowing, and it was really thick snow outside. And I remember, like, I think it was on Boxing Day. Like, people coming and knocking on, people saying, "Oh, you're going to come out and play? Snow."
Yeah, no,
and I was like, And I remember when I got the knock.
Fucking children, get out of here!
I'm in Hyrule, you idiot.
No, when I got the knock though, I was actually at that point I was squaring up to Dark Link in the ice place to get the metal boots.
Oh.
So it's like I was in the ice area.
You were there.
So they were like, "Oh, come outside and play in the ice," and I'm like, "I am."
Yeah, already there.
I've never been so wonderfully gripped by something for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
Just got lost in that game.
Exactly. And obviously, at the time, school holidays and stuff, and it was just every day wake up, that lovely kind of wintry morning, run downstairs, play Ocarina of Time, opening on Christmas Day and being like, yes, that's what I'm fucking talking about.
I got so for months I got so excited.
Yeah,
being like,
me too.
I need to get this for Christmas. I need it.
Yeah.
And then being like, read in the magazine, there's going to be a gold cartridge version. I'm like, I need the gold cartridge one.
Exactly.
It has to be the golden one.
Don't get it wrong.
And then being like, actually the golden one's not coming out. I'm like, actually no, the golden one's fine.
Yeah.
And then it being like, actually they'll all be gold. And I'm like, hey, just get me it. It's gonna.
Get it down.
I need the gold one. And yeah, so actually my dad was furious because I couldn't wait on Christmas Eve. I went to Blockbusters and I rented it.
Did you really?
Jeez.
I like it. I respect it.
My dad came in and he saw, and I guess from the look on my face or whatever, he clocked and he was like, "What's that you're playing?" And he clocked it and he was like, "Take it back now."
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Because I'd spoiled my own Christmas.
Oh, I did that.
I basically got around I'd circumvented the rules of Christmas.
Didn't do anything wrong. I didn't open any presents.
I didn't open any presents.
Just went to Blockbuster.
Put my hands behind my head.
Yeah, I've done it all.
You can't do me. It's all in my book.
I found GTA San Andreas on top of the wardrobe.
You opened a Christmas present?
No, that's not the same.
In my-
you said
my
I did something
dad's
same. That is
room.
not the same.
It's exactly the same.
It's not the same.
No.
Well, okay. And
Matt used his intelligence to play a game earlier. You stole yours.
at no point had my parents said, "Chris,
You stole your parents' property.
don't
go to jail.
We're going to put something up here that isn't it's not family possession. It's not for anyone to use."
How old are you in this story?
Younger than the age.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're 18
So
and
they
you're
were
doing
responsible
this.
parents anyway. That's
Right,
what I'm trying to
fair
say.
enough.
And I think I played through it like quite early on in December.
And then put it back.
Put it back. They don't know. I feigned like
You're a
excitement.
terrible son. You're a terrible son.
I was just so excited about playing Ocarina of Time.
Me too.
That I just couldn't. I decided I couldn't wait, and I had to
I'm gonna
plan
play the day before.
to circumvent this not waiting.
There's nothing wrong with
I was
that.
like,
You did nothing wrong.
It would cost me £4 or whatever to rent it. I thought like it's worth £4.
Yes, I
to
agree.
play it now.
Yes.
But yeah, it's one of those difficult things about growing up. You won't understand this, Brad, but like I think for me and Miller, it's like that thing of like, I love games and I love the medium and I continue to be fascinated and excited by it and really interested in it. But I will never be as happy in my life as I was when I was first playing Ocarina of Time.
He's 100% correct. It's the most factual statement that's ever been said. Like, it just is. It was a different time, and I was a
San
different
Andreas
person.
was pretty good. Like, you
I
could
know,
go to
but
the
Doesn't
gym.
have the magic. Doesn't have
You'd
the
like
magic.
that.
We were just
Well.
the right age, the right time.
Really were.
Christmas.
Yeah.
And
It's magical and all that bollocks anyway.
yeah, it's just like, it's like I've just never been so happy, and I will not be that happy
No.
ever again. I'll have a kid, right, and at some point I'll be looking down at a freshly born,
Fresh baby.
fresh babies. Come and get your fresh babies straight out the vag. No, I'll be looking at a.
You've tickled Simon with the use of badge there.
It's the last thing I was expecting. It's fine. It's fine.
I couldn't resist, but yeah, I'll be looking at I'll be looking at a baby and thinking, this is my son.
Yeah.
But I'll have to stop myself from looking to the mother and saying, don't get me wrong, this is good.
different on you.
But I was still happier when I was playing Ocarina of Time.
I agree. I would say unfortunately, it's not unfortunately, it's because we were the perfect age to experience that game where you could kind of suspend your disbelief and get lost in it. And then, like I say, because it was Christmas, you had time off and you had the excitement. I don't get excited about games coming out anymore. I look forward to them, but I don't get excited about them.
And I think the thing is, I mean, you obviously, I kind of forced you through charity to play that game by being like, here, I'm giving you a games console.
I'll give you everything.
It's the wrong time in my life.
Well, that's the thing that I kind of, one of the things I forget is that now so much of Ocarina of Time was such an influential game that so many of those things now, like so many of the ideas and things in it are just being rehashed and reused and seen so many things. But I think what it's so hard to remember is that so many things in that game, like it was so innovative at the time, like so many ideas, so many things that people had never seen before, so many ideas that you just didn't know.
To me, that I think we mentioned this when Kez was on actually. That to me, that's just the Zelda formula now. That's what I expect from Zelda games.
But that wasn't the case.
And that's the thing. It was just like I remember the point at which I realised that. First of all, the point at which I realised you went like forward in time by 7 years and everything had changed. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like a whole new game.
And then the point at which I realised that you had to steal the horse by like just riding it fast enough to jump over. And I was like, this is crazy.
It really was like, because you're fascinating.
Like, it didn't make sense, like in a weird way. Like
this is what games did.
No,
games
like
didn't do this.
Or like, especially the fact that he didn't tell you what to do. It would just be like, you just work out and you go, whoa.
Yeah.
And had all these mad secrets, like the pose and the bottles and stuff. And
yeah, it was so layered. Like we talking about how Dragon Age has too much to it because we expected it. It didn't do that then, but it had so much to it.
Yeah, like that then it was just, there weren't games like that. And it was just like, what the fuck? When does this rabbit hole end?
Yeah. That's true. I mean, that is easily, and it will always be my favourite gaming experience.
I've had good Christmases since, but
but that won't get
never.
topped. That won't get topped.
Never. And on that, it's kind of always like makes me happy to remember that, but always it's like fairly depressing. You sort of think that was the peak of my life.
Yeah, I've had it already.
But at least we lucked out because I honestly think that we were really lucky to be in an age group where that was just...
Yeah, when that happened. Totally.
Because I think there would have been, for every generation, there would have been a game actually like GTA 3 and GTA San Andreas. I think for my little brother who's...
so like I joked about earlier. I was so excited about that game.
Yeah, I think GTA 3 and San Andreas were like a big deal for a slightly younger generation. But I think we kind of lucked out, because GTA 3 it's a bit crass, isn't it?
Yeah, we were just stealing horses, not killing them.
We had old-fashioned family magic.
Exactly.
You had your drugs and your whores.
You old man, you're so
your
boring.
guns.
Damn right. Where's my paw?
I'm gonna pour myself another glass of frozen and retire to the gentleman's room. That's
see what that budget was all about.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on this pleasingly extended episode of Daft Souls. I'm not sure how many more we'll have before Christmas now, and I'll probably take a break at Christmas, but I don't know. Maybe I won't.
You're allowed to do that.
I think I'm allowed to do that.
You want it.
I can pretty much do what I want. I tend to, much to my own detriment.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much for joining us, Simon.
No, thank you, man.
It
was lovely. It's
three good friends and some spirited video game discussion.
There we go.
And Brat is wearing a jumper that lights up.
Oh, I forgot the
Brat's
light
wearing the worst Christmas jumper
wait.
ever.
I mean, you won't be able to...
Look at that.
Oh, there we
Look
go.
at that.
You won't be able to hear...
currently
Yeah.
illuminated.
He's got a jumper that lights up and flashes.
Yeah, you won't be able to see my disappointment, but know that it's there.
I'm not disappointed in the jumper. I'm just disappointed in you.
Yeah, exactly.
You're talking about losing the Christmas spirit. I still got it. This is fine. This is my Christmas excitement.
You never had it. That's the
You
problem.
never had. If you have Christmas spirit, you don't understand Christmas spirit.
You don't understand.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much for listening. Bye.
Bye.
You say bye as well, if you want.
See you later, dudes.
That doesn't make you cool.
I like that.
Why not?
Riffing.
See you later, dudes.